Okay, think about this. By 2026, your most reliable, maybe even your most intimate relationship could actually be with an AI. Wild, right? Welcome to this explainer. We're going to take some really complex, cutting edge stuff and break it all down. Today, we're looking straight into the future. The world is changing at breakneck speed, and it's radically altering how we think, how we interact, and literally how we exist as humans. So, we're going to explore the near future of human behavior by diving into the emerging global trends in psychology projected for the year 2026. Okay, let's dive into this. What exactly is ahead for the field of psychology? And, what does that actually mean for you and me? Right now, behavioral science is hard at work mapping out our immediate future. They're figuring out exactly how our minds are going to need to bend, adapt, and evolve. So, researchers have actually pinpointed 9 distinct emerging global trends. But to keep things super focused today, we're zeroing in on 4 key highlights. We've got AI companions, severe weather, workplace transformation, and science communication. We're focusing on these 4 specifically because they perfectly show how our brains are being completely rewired by these massive, unprecedented global shifts. Now, what's really interesting about this is the core concept of adaptation. We often think of psychology as this static thing. Maybe you picture a patient on a couch talking about their childhood. But modern behavioral science? It's actually a super dynamic analysis of how we adapt to our rapidly changing surroundings in real time. The sheer spectrum of human experiences that psychologists are analyzing for 2026 is, frankly, staggering. We aren't just dealing with normal generational shifts anymore. It's a completely new paradigm of what it means to live in a modern society. Psychology has basically moved out of the clinic and out into the real world. Today, behavioral scientists are just as likely to be consulting on the ethical algorithms of your favorite social media platform or deploying as psychological first responders to a sudden disaster zone. It's all about real-time human resilience. And this extreme dichotomy really hits the nail on the head when it comes to our modern existence. First, consider the rise of AI companions. This is a highly artificial, totally digital, and deeply internal experience. Psychology is actively studying how our brains process intimacy, friendship, and even reliance on an entity driven entirely by code. We're actually seeing data showing that for a lot of individuals, the human brain lights up with the exact same neurochemical rewards when interacting with an AI chatbot as it does with a real human friend. Crazy, right? But behavioral scientists are asking the tough questions here. Does this digital intimacy cure our modern loneliness epidemic, or does it kind of stunt our ability to handle, messy, complex human relationships? Then you have to contrast that digital sanctuary with our physical reality, severe weather. Behavioral scientists are actively studying this rising phenomenon called eco-anxiety. Communities are dealing with chronic stress, trauma, displacement, and just this overarching existential dread caused by increasingly extreme environmental impacts like wildfires and floods. Psychologists are literally having to build entirely new clinical frameworks to treat trauma that isn't just in the past, but is this ongoing atmospheric threat. Our brains are being asked to simultaneously form these deeply personal digital bonds while staying hyper-vigilant to physical storms. That is a massive, absolutely unprecedented range of psychological adaptation. Let's move on and see how this builds, because these massive external shifts are also infiltrating the place where we spend most of our waking hours. Behavioral science doesn't just sit up in some ivory tower observing these shifts from afar. It is actually on the ground, actively working in the spaces that define our daily routines. Psychology isn't just observing from the sidelines anymore. Behavioral science is the vital tool actively guiding how our workplaces shift and transform in response to these global trends. Think about it. The transition to hybrid and remote work completely blurred the lines between the office and the living room, which led to a massive spike in burnout. Well, behavioral scientists stepped in to solve this. They are the ones providing the actionable blueprints to prevent things like Zoom fatigue by redesigning meeting cadences and actually implementing psychological safety protocols in digital spaces. For instance, a lot of organizations are now using behavioral insights to establish strict right to disconnect frameworks. So instead of employees living in this constant state of hypervigilance, just waiting for a late night notification, psychologists have helped design asynchronous communication models that actually protect employees' mental health. Whether it's managing the anxiety of integrating artificial intelligence into our daily workflows or completely redefining professional boundaries, behavioral science is dictating how organizations must adapt to keep their people healthy, motivated, and productive. Now, all of this rapid change brings up a really critical challenge. How do we actually talk about it? In an era where things are moving so fast, the way complex information is shared has become incredibly crucial. Because if the science is rock solid but the communication of that science fails, the public is basically left in the dark exactly when they need that information the most. So the crucial point is that behavioral science isn't just about the message, it is entirely about the delivery. For decades, experts really relied on what's called the information deficit model. That's the idea that if you just give people enough facts and data, they will change their behavior. But psychologists have proven that model is pretty much dead. Humans just aren't purely rational data processors, right? We're emotional, we're biased, and honestly, we get overwhelmed easy. Behavioral science provides the exact roadmap for effective communication. Take severe weather warnings, for example. If meteorologists just broadcast abstract data like barometric pressure and wind speeds, people often just ignore it. But when behavioral scientists help frame that exact same warning using local, personal narratives, telling a community, hey, water will reach the second-story windows in your specific neighborhood, evacuation compliance absolutely skyrockets. Behavioral science answers the critical question of how we format the truth so that a stressed out, overwhelmed public can easily digest it, trust it, and actually act upon it to keep themselves safe. All right, to truly understand the weight of these future-casting trends, we need to quickly ground these insights in the authority of the institution that's actually driving this research. Like, who is doing all this studying, analyzing, and forecasting in the first place? Well, that would be the American Psychological Association, or the APA. They are the premier leading scientific and professional organization representing psychology in the United States. They act as the authoritative body actively compiling and responding to these 9 emerging global trends. 157,000. That is the massive collective force dedicated to understanding the human mind. We're not talking about a handful of isolated researchers here. This is an absolute army of professionals driving these global psychological insights forward. And this brilliantly illustrates that it isn't just researchers sitting in a lab somewhere. It's a beautifully diverse collaborative ecosystem. You've got researchers uncovering the raw data, educators teaching the next generation, clinicians on the front lines applying the science to patients, consultants helping businesses through those major workplace transformations, and of course, students bringing fresh perspectives to the field. It's an entire network actively preparing us for exactly what comes next. Now, we've deeply explored AI companions, environmental impacts, workplace shifts, and science communication today. But honestly, that is only part of the story. To empower yourself with a complete picture of what is coming down the pipeline, you can discover all 9 trends by reading the full, comprehensive report at apa.org/monitor. It is a completely fascinating roadmap that will for sure change how you view the next few years. And if you want to learn more about the organization itself and the vital resources they provide, you can just head over to apat.org. So, we've seen the data. We know the trends. From forming deep, personal bonds with artificial intelligence to shielding our minds and communities from extreme weather, the landscape of the human experience is shifting dramatically. Knowing all of this, the ultimate question isn't just what the world will look like, but how will your behavior adapt to the world of 2026? Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.